Welcome, everybody. The recording is in progress. Welcome to the July 1st, 2025 business meeting of the Little Hoover Commission. Just to let you know, we're going to move the agenda items around in the interest of commissioner schedules. So we'll start with public comment, and then we will move to what is on the number 4 on the agenda, the project and meeting schedule, so that we can have a conversation about what topics we want to take up next. So having said that, why don't I turn this over to Ethan Rarick.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. So we will start with item number 1, which is public comment. If the staff can put the directions on the screen, public comment is limited to 3 minutes per speaker. If you have joined the meeting via Zoom, if you can please use the raised hand function to indicate you wish to make public comment. If you have phoned into the meeting, email us at littlehoover@lhc.ca.gov. That's littlehoover@lhc.ca.gov. And give us your phone number so that we know who to unmute if you're called upon to make public comment. Email us immediately. But again, if you've joined via Zoom, please use the raised hand function. That is much easier. 3 minutes per speaker for a total public comment period of 30 minutes if that is needed. I believe that we have no one in the physical location who wishes to make public comment. So Shara, if you can please identify the first online commenter.
Yes, we actually do have some attendees in the room that would like to make public comments, so we'll go ahead and start with them. And sir, you can go ahead and begin.
Thank you very much. Am I facing anyone on video, or is this just audio?
It's just audio.
All right. Thank you very much, members of the commission. My name is Ted Merman. I teach at the UC Berkeley Law School. I run the California Low Income Consumer Coalition, which has co-sponsored recent legislation aimed at preventing elder financial abuse. I want to thank the members and staff of the commission and the bipartisan group of legislators who have submitted an official letter request for taking up one of the most widespread and urgent consumer protection issues of our time. Nonpartisan organizations estimate losses to elder financial fraud range above $28 billion a year. If there's a person in this room or in these virtual rooms who has not had a relative or friend who has been targeted by scammers through lotteries, repair scams, romance scams, grandchildren scams, or schemes targeting specific immigrant populations, then you are the exception. The question is, what can California do about it? The answer, without prefiguring the commission's report, is a lot. First, the commission can outline performance-based standards that the legislature may adopt across the board to reduce the theft and abuse that we are currently seeing. Should those measures include financial institutions that may know their customer has never before wired money, but has sent $9,000 per week overseas for the past 2 months? Yes. And the article published by ProPublica just last week explains why. But the effort should also include the telecom companies that facilitate a suspiciously high volume of communications between residents of California and known prison labor camps in other countries. It should sweep in payment companies whose products and channels have become the favorite tools of scammers overseas. It should include every link in the chain of fraud that is ruining the dreams of our elders. Second, the commission can exert moral force in exhorting all to do their part. Yes, there are jurisdictional and constitutional limitations on what the California legislature may require, though there is still much that it can do by statute. But the commission and the legislature can also call upon actors who have the ability to disrupt this grim business as usual, even when they may lie beyond the reach of California law. That can include federal regulatory and law enforcement agencies, as well as those from other states and indeed other countries. When the various players are called to account to do their part, and when they see that others are being called to account, we might just see the creation of a virtuous circle. So far, when one or another industry or agency that is part of this ecosystem of elder financial fraud has been asked, what are you doing to stop our parents from losing their retirement savings? The answer too often has been, why are you asking me? What about them? The commission has the opportunity to change that dynamic, to include all the players on one team and to get us to the day when we hear instead from every player, what can we do?
Sir,
Thank you in
you're
advance for your work.
Thank you very much. Sheriff, if we can go on to the next speaker.
Thank you. Do we have any more public comments in the room? Okay, we have no more public comments in the room. So our first comment online will be coming from Kevin Aslanian. You now have the ability to unmute yourself.
Okay, have I been muted?
Yes,
You
you
have
have.
How about that? Hi, good afternoon, good morning, yeah. So my name is Kevin Aslanian. I'm with the Coalition of California Welfare Rights Organizations, and we basically advocate for CalWorks families. CalWorks families, we have about 600,000 children who are receiving CalWorks, and the average grant that they receive is about $1,000 a month for a family of three, and that is below 50% of the federal poverty level. That is labeled as toxic poverty by researchers, and that's basically, in my opinion, is sort of like state child abuse because the children are being subjected to toxic poverty. They get no cost of living increase. Ronald Reagan put in a cost of living increase for AFDC that now is CalWorks, but that was wiped out and has never been restored. Homeless families, there are a lot of homeless families with children, and they only get 16 days of homeless assistance, and after that, they're thrown back into the streets with no place to live. Meanwhile, and every year, the state legislature takes over $1 billion and uses it rather than for CalWorks, they use it for non-CalWorks issues. The thing is that the state gets a TANF federal block grant and they're supposed to match it. And that money could be used for CalWorks eligible families or non-CalWorks eligible activities. Those are people who are not meeting all of the CalWorks requirements. It is our position that all of that money that they have should be used for CalWorks eligible children. And I'll be glad to send staff some information about this. And we would like to see you look into it. Why is this money being fleeced from children who are enduring toxic poverty? Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Caleb Logan. You now have the ability to unmute yourself.
All right. Good morning, and thank you all for hearing us today. I'm a staff attorney at a nonprofit legal services provider in Southern California, and I focus primarily on elder financial abuse. So I would like to just add some additional words to Mr. Merman's earlier talking points. So older adults specifically lost almost $5 billion to fraud last year, according to the FBI's 2024 IC3 report. And of course, we know that there are issues getting an accurate picture just because not everyone reports, so the actual figure is likely much larger. I believe California has the opportunity to lead the states on this issue where the US as a whole is falling behind. The United Kingdom, for example, has already acted by requiring reimbursement for fraudulently induced wire transfers, which they implemented in October of 2024. Industry there had argued that the reimbursement scheme would lead people to be careless, such that scams would increase, but UK data since October do not bear this out, and the UK has also seen payment service providers taking more action to stop fraud as a result of the regulations. Similarly, Australia in February passed the Scams Prevention Framework Act, which requires the banking, telecoms, and digital platform companies to take reasonable steps to prevent scams. Failure to do so can lead to large fines, court orders, public warning notices, and people impacted by the scams can also sue for redress. And the companies in this area are people who have resources to help. In fact, McKinsey report last year found that banks specifically generated about $7 trillion in revenue in 2023, which is more profit than any other sector in the world. And now I think that the governor of Maryland said it well when he vetoed a bill just a couple weeks ago that would have created a 2-year study of reparations for slavery. And in doing so, he said, I don't need 2 years. I'm ready to act now. That is the kind of leadership older adults in California need right now. And so that's what I would urge all of us towards. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next
Shara, I believe you muted. Shara? Mr. Chairman, for some reason we are unable to hear Shara, who I believe, Shara, you are muted, I believe, on your end. If
Yeah,
you
I
can please
see.
unmute.
Yeah, I see that she's muted.
Yeah. Okay, for some reason, I'm told that the physical location has lost audio.
I
So
think we're back.
there we
Can
are.
you hear
Thank
me?
you. Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Thank you. Our next speaker will be Luann Nguyen. You now have the ability to unmute yourself.
Thank you, Luann Nguyen, also with the Coalition of California Welfare Rights Organization. We're team tagging this morning. Thank you for hosting this meeting. First, want to read the agenda, and Ms. Dion Aroner previously proposed a study of the continuum of care reform. Having worked in the legislature, I agree with Dion that that is an issue that needs a lot of focus. There are children in the population that's very hard to serve, and the state at this point does not have the necessary resources to serve them, and these children are languishing, and they need a lot of support, and this area needs a lot of attention and focus to improve the lives of those hard-to-serve kids. Two, in the public benefits world, our system is very reliant on technology to assess application eligibility and to provide services to people when they request it. And the CalSolves program is the technology program that does this for us. It covers Medi-Cal, CalWorks, CalFresh. And the problem is there is a lot of problem with the technology. There needs to be a greater focus on that because technology is the mode by which we operate in modernity, in which we access is created, and that's simply not there. Third, as we move forward, the Senate, the federal Senate just voted to pass the one big beautiful bill, which is really a monstrosity of a bill, and it's harmful to the population nationwide, but particularly in California. We need to look at the content of the one big beautiful bill in the human services space, especially in Medi-Cal and food stamps, and to see the harm and to help figure out what to do about that. So if the commission could look at those things, that would be really wonderful. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you.
Thank
Shara,
you.
do we have any other public commenters?
Yes, we have one more. Our next speaker will be Carol Sewall. You now have the ability to unmute yourself.
Thank you. I'm Carol Sewell from the California Elder Justice Coalition, calling in to comment on the proposal to look at financial exploitation of older adults. I want to thank Senator Grayson and his bipartisan coalition for submitting this request and for the Little Hoover Commission for considering it. This is an issue that the California Elder Justice Coalition has been looking into for many years, initially looking into the fact that there are no services established specifically to help older individuals who are the victim of financial exploitation and financial crimes, to help them recover. There are very few services specifically designed for them. This is an issue that we've been working with banks for several years, trying to look at ways that the banks have more tools in their arsenal to help step in and prevent these crimes before they happen. We know that a lot of the efforts around elder financial crimes focus on education, which is really I think, a failed effort for the most part. The romance scams, the highly sophisticated imposter scams that are going on, along with the isolation that older adults face. Many live alone, lose family members, and are lonely and will respond to a phone call or an email. Additionally, we have the growing numbers of older adults with dementia. And if any of you have experience with that, you know that once someone is developing cognitive impairments, education is of limited value. So I really want to thank you for considering this request. This is an essential research project that we need good, sound, nonpartisan recommendations. The state can do more, and I hope that you can help that happen. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Heather Willoughby. You now have the ability to unmute yourself.
Great, thank you so much for allowing me the time to speak today. I currently work as a CalFresh analyst and CalWorks analyst at CCWRO, and I am here today to give public comment mainly regarding affordability, but also regarding the passage of the federal budget bill and how we will be able to proactively mitigate some of the harm that will come from this bill for our most needy people in California. So quite first is, the CalSOS, the aforementioned CalSOS issues with technology and automation, and also the CalFresh utilization rate in California, the procedural problems that have been resulting in denials will be incredibly infected by what will be coming through in that federal bill. So making sure that we are proactively getting ahead of those particular rates will make sure that we harm less of California citizens going forward. And finally, I am a staunch advocate for higher education and public benefits working in unison. I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing expansion of the CalWorks Association program that is currently housed in the community college system into the four-year public system, and also a deeper dive into how to make these programs work better in unison. The affordability of public benefits, as aforementioned by my colleague, makes it so that a CalWorks grant doesn't actually cover your rent in this state. And so really that unison of working with higher ed and getting people to higher pay grades is very vital. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is going to be Julie Hendrickson. You now have the ability to unmute yourself.
Hi, thank you very much for this opportunity to speak with you just briefly. I hope to follow up with more detail at the next meeting, but my name is Julie Hendrickson. I'm a 22-year Navy Reserve Corps veteran. I'm a caregiver and advocate for my 87-year-old father, a retired firefighter, and I co-founded the family council at the residential care facility that he is in. I cared for him at home for about 3 years post-stroke, and then he was well enough to get into assisted living and enjoy some peer support and social opportunities this past year. I'm concerned about the indirect exploitation of our elderly in residential care facilities for the elderly, as well as the skilled nursing facility industry, as in particular with the RCFEs as a result of the community care licensing complaint process that has been in prolonged dysfunction. I have been working with my father as an advocate for him, leveraging the fantastic ombudsman process, but encountering a lot of difficulty with the dysfunctional complaint process with community care licensing. Unfortunately, what I've discovered is that this issue is well known in the ombudsman world, in the elder law attorney world, and with senior advocacy nonprofit groups. And I was confused as to how this has been allowed to go on. The regulations are so important for the support, for the care, safety, and quality of life of these residents. And community care licensing is such, an important arm of enforcement and education for these licensees. And it has been failing, at least for the past 2 years, from what I can gather. I have escalated my concerns and have had meetings over the past 6 months, and only recently have been in touch with the new program administrator. I attempted to meet with the recently retired program administrator after the holidays, but was unsuccessful. I just hope to note this for the record, and I look forward to giving more details as needed in writing regarding the experience and what I've uncovered in advocating for my father. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have no further public comment online.
Thank you very much. So, Mr. Chairman, with that, we can close the public comment section of the agenda. I should note, just for the record, that Commissioner Johnson has phoned in. His internet is not working, and so he has no video available. So in keeping with the provisions of the Bagley-Keene Act, since his internet is not workable, there's the end of the 3 minutes. Since his internet is not workable, he is allowed to join by phone, and so he's joined by calling in. With that, Mr. Chairman, with your permission, if you wish, we will go on to agenda item number 4, as you outlined previously.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Thank you.
So 4A is the update on current studies. The hearing at the end of this month will be the final hearing that we plan anyway on electricity costs. That's an ongoing study. At the August 28th hearing, we will focus on contracting and grant issues with nonprofits. That's following up on our survey of California nonprofits that we released 2 or 3 weeks ago, I suppose now. Those are the only ongoing studies at this time. Item 4B is the future meeting schedule. I'll just note that those dates are on page 17 of your packet. I see that Commissioner Sidley has raised her hand. Did you want to ask me a question about A or B,
sure,
or is this just in anticipation of the discussion?
This is not as anticipation. I just
okay,
wanted, Ethan, I just wanted to know, we had that very informative hearing on that the governor is doing that study on elder care, elder issues. And I'm wondering where that is, that process, and maybe I am sort of jumping the gun a little bit, but just adding that to our discussion, maybe to hear more about it or get an update on that study based upon what we just heard from our community members who called in. I just wanted to say that we have had a hearing on that issue already, and maybe to at some point, not necessarily for today, it wasn't on the agenda, but just to put that out. But I did want to let people know that there is an ongoing study, and we have already addressed some of, and we've already listened to some of that.
Thank you very much. So I can, in a few moments, I can ask Tamar to update us on that was a study really on the master plan on aging. And I think Tamar can update us briefly on where we stand in terms of implementation of that. But that we did release a study on the master plan on aging some time ago.
Right. Thank you. I just wanted to highlight that for some of our callers and let them know that we had looked at it. Thank you.
So that leads into, I think, item 4C, which is the real meat of agenda item 4, which is the discussion of future study topics. So let me just note that the list of potential topics that we've identified begins on page 19 of your packet. Of course, the commission is not limited to those topics. There are also 3 legislative letters included in the packet. The most recent, which is new, is on page 24. That's the request for a study of financial scams signed by Senator Grayson and 22 other members of the legislature. There are 2 letters from legislators which the commission has seen previously, but we've included in case you want to revisit those topics. Page 28, there's a letter from Assemblymember Jackson and 3 other members referencing affordability issues. Page 30, there's a letter from former Assemblymember Jim Patterson and 13 other members on the digital divide. Again, there are many other topics described in your packet, and perhaps most important, you're certainly not limited to the topics that are listed in the packet. The final thing I'll say, and then I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Chairman, is that in terms of bandwidth, we have staff bandwidth at the moment to pursue 2 additional studies. So I would suggest either that the commission select 2 topics today, or if you would wish instead to review brief scoping memos, you could pick 3 or perhaps even 4 topics on which we could produce scoping memos. And then at the end of this month, at the meeting on July 28th, I believe it is, the commission could decide which 2 to pursue for full studies. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Chairman. No, I'm sure tomorrow, if the commission wishes, can update us on our past report on master plan on aging. But otherwise, I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Chairman, for discussion.
Yeah, before we go to tomorrow, I see Vice Chair Cannella has his hand up.
Well, maybe we should go to tomorrow first. Janice said that a lot of that work's been done in a previous study. I think it's a righteous study. I think I'm interested, especially now that more legislators signed on to it. But if the work has already been done, then it probably doesn't make sense. So tomorrow, has that work been done? What's been being requested?
So I think the study request is perhaps a little different than the breadth of issues covered in the master plan for aging. As far as an update, Jana, there, I'm sorry to say I haven't tracked very closely, but I know that they were working on long-term care issues. I believe there's a lot of work now to ensure funding is secured for older adults, especially in light of potential changes in the federal funding structure. And I know that they also have been prioritizing housing for older adults. I'd be happy to follow up with the commission in more detail after I take a closer look at the initiatives. You remember this was an area where they had those 5 large goal areas and a number of initiatives in each area. So it's a pretty large project, but I'd be happy to follow up at another meeting with more details.
Just to wrap up my time, I support Senator Grayson's study. I think it'd be very informative and very pertinent to what we're facing today. So thank you.
So Anthony, if I may also it was more to the last speaker who was talking about care in senior centers and things like that people are looking, and there is an ongoing study. That doesn't mean anybody has done it fast enough for her particular needs or for other people's needs, but there is an ongoing study, and we have also looked at it. But in terms of Senator Grayson's request, no, we have not looked at that. But thank you Tamara. I totally understand, and it was and I maybe threw you off, and I apologize for that. Never intend to.
Commissioner Hernandez.
I likewise support the request. I'm just remiss that I didn't come up with the idea. But no, it's a great idea. I mean, it covers all financial scams. I believe it's not just elder abuse. So I'm hoping we can look at maybe some in-language issues as well. I do think that our young folks that are online also play video games are getting scammed somehow. So, I mean, if it could be all-inclusive, yes, the more the merrier.
Okay, so let's turn this up for other commissioners. So we've had a couple of expressions of support for the study. Senator Cabaldon.
Yeah, I didn't sign the letter because I'm on the commission, so I don't like writing letters to myself. But I do support it. I think it's a well scoped and very important and would be very useful. The second one on the list for me is the tech. And knowing these are just the other ones are mostly just concepts, is I know Senator Nilo and I both in the budget subcommittee that oversees state admin and general government. One of our enduring challenges, despite all the work that this commission and others have done, is on the technology and state government side. We just don't have a good handle, even now, from an oversight, accountability, planning, and strategy perspective. So it's a big one. It is a governmental organization question as much as anything. But that would so the Grayson one I think is ready to go, well scoped. It's a great, for me that's the best on the list. But of the one that would excite me the most in the budget process and in our oversight work in the legislature, that where we really do need some help is it's on the technology and state government side. So appreciate it.
Commissioner Garcetti. You're muted, Gil. You're muted. You're still
Commissioner Garcetti, you're still
Okay,
muted. There we go.
all right, okay, sorry. Many years ago, I was in the district attorney's office in the Consumer Environmental Protection Division, and one of our areas that we looked at was elder abuse. That's how long this issue's been around. It is much larger today than it was back then, simply because we have so many more elders around and the sophistication of the fraudsters who are out there. So I'm strongly in support of this. I also want to speak to the issue, if it is a big enough issue for us to address, and that is teenage and young adult suicide. I think you were going to do, I believe, a scoping memo on that one. Is that correct?
We did that, Commissioner Garcetti, some time ago, and I apologize that we didn't include the old scoping memos in this packet, but I think they're old enough that we would need to update them a bit. So if the commission wants to potentially pursue that, we can update that scoping memo. I think the data might be a little old.
Okay, I would certainly be in favor of updating it because I think it's a much larger issue, not just people who are in college, but young people in general.
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Gil. Back to Jana.
So just to keep us moving forward, I would offer a motion to do the Senator Grayson study as our first study. I agree with Commissioner Hernandez that it is not just elder abuse. And I think, we should look at this in the more holistic, broader view. And certainly I have had a conversation with some of the representatives from the banks and, they also spoke of just elder abuse, but I think, I get these emails. I don't think of myself as an elderly person, but I guess I fall into that category at my age. But I do think that college students get it and whatever. So, I would ask if we do look at this, that we don't just focus on elder abuse, but we focus on the abuse of what is going on in this area in total. But I would offer a motion that we do that as our first study.
I see Hernandez has his hand up.
I second that motion.
Okay.
And I do think that I don't know if it was within the letter or maybe some material. I mean, AI is part of this in terms of the new scams that they're using, targeting all sorts of different individuals.
Yeah, so there's a motion. I don't know that we need one, but if you want one, we can go ahead and do it. It is, I think normally what we just do is consensus, and I don't see anybody raising their hands or setting their hair on fire. So it looks to me as though there's a general understanding and agreement that the commission wants to take on the issue raised in the Grayson letter. Now, I think part of the challenge for staff is going to be what Commissioner Byer has reminded us often about boiling the ocean. So that would be, I think, an important part of a scoping memo on what was raised in the Grayson letter. But I certainly don't have any objection to the commission taking that on as one of our studies. Commissioner Byer, do you have any comment?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had to step out for a family thing, but I defer to the judgment of my fellow colleagues. There are many good and valid topics. I think we've been successful when we have a degree of focus that has an audience and a sort of target of potential solutions, whether that's legislative or executive action. The more we get far afield and start talking about federal regulation, that becomes a kind of a harder problem. And so in the case of financial crimes or abuses, there are many, many avenues to pursue. And so choosing one may require more than a scoping memo and some conversations with the relevant legislative committees and or the executive branch to figure out what the greatest value we could add would be.
Yeah, I think that's sort of an appropriate. I think it's understood in terms of what we're asking staff to do, which is to take a look at the topic and then create some sort of architecture so that we don't end up spending a lot of time and work on things that we really can't influence. So I think part of the benefit of a scoping memo is to identify those areas that are federal and those areas that are federal regulatory, federal legislative, and then exactly what Commissioner Beyer said is what is it that the legislature in California or the executive branch can do over which we have some authority as compared to just wishing that things were better.
Yeah, if I could, Mr. Chairman. So I have been obsessing over the last, I don't know, week or so on preemption for artificial intelligence. There was a provision in the congressional budget bill. It got deleted today before the Senate passed the bill. It's a thorny, difficult question. So let's just hypothesize that the fraud is AI influenced. Is that a federal issue or a state issue? And I don't know. There are good arguments for both, but there's also an overlay between a statute and regulation and common law. And we also don't really know the scope of the private sector efforts, what technological interventions are possible or likely or even currently being used, including AI, to detect things. So there is a lot to be digested before proceeding to figure out the target of a study.
Yeah, so I don't see anybody. Wow, what happened there? I don't see any objection to that. So Ethan, I think that we've probably laid out enough direction so the staff can go ahead and start on that.
I believe so, Mr. Chairman. So I believe we will work with a subcommittee that you'll appoint in due course and develop a scoping memo that outlines the nature of this study, but it will be based on the assumption that we will in fact proceed to a full study of these issues as requested in Senator Grayson's letter. If the commission wishes, as I said before, we have the staff bandwidth, I think, to identify a second topic or a couple of potential topics on which we could produce scoping memos pending a further decision. I take it the Grayson matter, as I interpret the commission's direction, is we will proceed with a study. We'll identify the exact parameters in due course, but we'll proceed with the study. But if you wish, we could add other items.
Well, you got Commissioner Hernandez, and yeah, I agree. In terms of, I think there's consensus on the banking issues or the financial abuse issues. Hernandez, please.
Just a timeline. I know there was no, set date in terms of the letter. I'm assuming there's a sense of urgency. Luckily, we know the legislative calendar, but in terms of timeline, I mean, if we're going to do the scoping memo and then the report, do we have a sense of what that timeline might look like, Ethan?
I think, Commissioner Hernandez, I think the likely, since we already have topics scheduled for hearings for end of July and end of August, the likelihood is that we would hold hearings in, say, September and October, then producing a report at the end of the calendar year or early January, which, assuming that there was potential legislative action next year, would be, I would think, a useful time schedule.
Okay. All right. Let's. Any other topics? We've had Commissioner Senator Cabaldon talk about tech in state government, and then the issue of suicide. David Beyer.
Yeah. I know this is a bit out of the norm. It's not a new study, but I've been thinking a lot about our electricity study and whether we have, even after we hear from the agencies, the PUC, et cetera, at our next hearing, whether we're maybe missing something that could be important, and that is the changes in the, I'm going to call it the business environment relative to solar, wind, renewables, and AI capacity. And let me explain, came up in our last hearing. If, as a result of cuts in the federal budget, there's less solar, less wind, those become very expensive, but we still have the mandates to do them under state law, that's an affordability problem. If we build out a lot of AI infrastructure and it's not completely clear whether ratepayers are going to be paying for that, if you look 5 years from now, that environment is going to have a lot more to do with affordability than almost anything we've studied. And I just worry that we will maybe not have completely covered that, but I'm reluctant to, after 4 hearings, to suggest another one.
Well, Commissioner Sidley.
So, Commissioner Byer, I hear you. I'm a little concerned about taking that on right now, only because I don't know what that bill and all of that drama is going to look like. And as opposed to waiting a cycle for us to do that additional study. I do, agree though, it's going to be a huge problem. If they cut the subsidies and you're going to lose jobs, and it's going to be a big impact. I'm actually was going to speak up for one of the proposed studies for the group that has almost zero sympathy and very, very few advocates. And that is the education of people in state prison. I think it's a contained study. I think it would not take many hearings, but I think it's incredibly important to try to reduce recidivism, to try to move people out of the in and out, revolving doors. And I think it's a great good to the community as a whole if we can educate people in prison. So I'm just going to speak up for that group here and say I think that might be a very important study, and one that, again, not a sympathetic group, but important to address that. So thank you.
Okay. Let me ask you, Ethan, with respect to Commissioner Byer's raising of the issue of looking ahead, right? Looking ahead to as these AI centers are being proposed, and as the entities responsible are supposed to be planning for that demand, is there not a way to address that within the structure that we already have in place? And let me, Hernandez, is this about this topic or a different one?
Yeah.
Okay, please.
Well, two things. I mean, I think you have a CPUC, CEC come on the next one. These are great questions for them. And then ask them the data center, because it's interesting, the answer. The more data centers we have, the cheaper people's rates will be. And it's counterintuitive, but you should ask them why.
Okay. Well, so then it does seem to me that what Commissioner Byer has raised is something that can be addressed by those entities that are coming up for the next hearing.
That sounds great.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a weird math, but if they don't show it to you, I'll show it to you.
All right. Well, good enough. There's another iron in the fire there, Commissioner Hernandez. God, what a utility player we have here. Okay. So now we
talk about broadband.
Well, so we've already got one study we've decided that we definitely want to do. Tech has been raised, suicide, and prison education. So are there any other candidates that the commissioners want to tee up for further consideration? Because if not, then we can focus on the ones that seem to have been articulated already. Well, don't all run to unmute yourselves. Commissioner Hernandez.
Just clarification. I think I get it, but if Senator/Commissioner Cabaldon could talk about the tech and state. I mean, I know we had a conversation about AI and the state, but is it more than just that?
There you go.
Yeah, it is. So, well, I think what we're grappling with, and the commission has analyzed this before. So let me be clear about it. But I think in our capacity to make sense of the state's technology so Roger, Senator Neal will recognize this, but we've got each year now we've got hundreds of millions of dollars of plays that are from the Department of Technology for agencies to be able to match their systems together, to renovate a system from 20 years ago, to renovate a system from 3 years ago, to complete a system from 18 years ago that is already obsolete. And that planning and oversight process has never been tight. But it is a substantial driver of state costs, and there's really no framework for either the administration or for the legislature to make any sense of it. And so I don't think I'm speaking out of school, Senator Nilo. Everything just sort of just flies through because you're like, well, if you don't do everything and then redo it again 3 years from now, then payroll doesn't happen, or the property database disappears, or everybody dies, and so it is a substantial challenge. So it's not a brand new issue, and as I said, the commission has looked at this question at least once in its history, but it is a severely vexing problem that I'm not sure anyone else has the ability to look at from the quasi outside that the commission has.
Okay. Yeah, Commissioner Nilo, Senator Nilo.
I'm commissioner.
Yes, you are, Commissioner.
I can be both.
Yeah.
Senator, Commissioner.
So I agree with both of Commissioner Senator Cabaldan's recommendations. This is, by the way, the second time this week he has talked about an issue where everybody's going to die. You remember you invoked that with regard to environmental issues, but at any rate, Senator Grayson visited me with regard to his letter, also asked me to sign the letter. One time in my life, I signed a letter addressed to myself. That's a long story, never mind. But I don't want to do it again. And I absolutely agree. IT in the government setting, at least California, is perplexing. I mean, we even have programs I read the other day that were written in COBOL. My first career in public accounting consulting, I actually wrote programs, and I wrote in COBOL, and that was over 50 years ago. So I think I think that's needed.
Well, let me tell you what I'm sensing here. I think staff, we could take a look at scoping the tech issue, suicide, and prison education. Then everybody gets a Christmas tree.
Mr. Chair, to put a finer point on the tech piece, I wonder, I know this looks backwards.
No, it says Recoding America.
Yeah, this framework is different from the last time the commission looked at tech and state government, which was a while away. But this really, I think, is a very useful rubric to be rethinking the way that we've always done technology in state government.
All right. So not seeing any vigorous opposition to what I just proposed, I'm suggesting that as a consensus, that's the direction we take. Anybody disagree? Seeing no disagreement, and you see that's why I get the big bucks here. Ethan, I think that's we've got some direction here.
I believe so, Mr. Chairman. So as I understand the commission's direction, it is that we will pursue a study on the financial scams as requested by Senator Grayson. We'll figure out the exact parameters going forward, but we'll pursue that. We will come back to the commission with brief scoping memos on prison education, youth suicide, and technology in state government. And the commission can then make a decision at the end of the meeting at the end of this month, which of those you wish to pursue. So that's what I understand the direction to be.
Great. All right. So I think we've just done all of our work on item number 4. So can we now move to adoption of minutes?
Correct. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we'll move to item number 2, and I apologize that we have a number of sets of minutes. During the reorganization plan work, we sort of put off approving minutes, so we have to go back and do a little housekeeping. So the first set, Mr. Chairman, is on page 2 of the packet from December 13th of 2024.
All right. Considering December 13th, 2024 minutes, any questions or comments? If not, we'll entertain a motion to adopt the minutes as presented. I'm seeing Commissioner Garcetti makes the motion.
Second.
Commissioner Sidley seconded.
Mr. Chairman?
Aye.
Mr. Vice Chairman?
Aye.
Commissioner Aaroner, Commissioner Byer,
Aye.
Senator Cabaldon,
Aye.
Assembly Member Chen, Commissioner Garcetti,
Aye.
Commissioner Hernandez,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Senator Nilo, Assembly Member Ortega, Commissioner Sidley.
Aye.
That
Senator
motion-
Nilo's now unmuted to
Yeah.
hear his vote.
Nilo, aye.
Okay.
Thank you very much. So, Mr. Chairman, we can then move on to March 27th
On
of
the
this
March,
year.
right, March 27th, questions or comments, corrections by members of the commission? Seeing none, Commissioner Miller makes the motion to adopt.
I'll second again.
Commissioner Sidney coming in at second again.
Mr. Chairman?
Call the roll. Aye.
Oh. Mr. Vice Chairman?
Aye.
Commissioner Aaroner, Commissioner Byer,
Aye.
Senator Cabaldon,
Aye.
Assembly Member Chen, Commissioner Garcetti,
Aye.
Commissioner Hernandez,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Senator Nilo,
Aye.
Assembly Member Ortega, Commissioner Sidley.
Aye.
That motion carries, Mr. Chairman. We can then move on to May 13th. This begins on page 9 of the packet.
Right. Questions, comments, or corrections to the May 13th minutes? Seeing none, we'll entertain a motion on that. Commissioner Hernandez moves. Can we get a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Sidley is our permanent seconder on all motions. So
Mr.
call the
Chairman.
question. Aye.
Mr. Vice Chairman.
Aye.
Commissioner Aaroner, Commissioner Byer,
Aye.
Senator Cabaldon,
Aye.
Assembly Member Chen, Commissioner Garcetti,
Aye.
Commissioner Hernandez,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Senator Nilo,
Aye.
Assembly Member Ortega, Commissioner Sidley.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And with that, we can move on to the last set of minutes. Again, apologies for all these on page 14, May 29th of this year.
Then questions, comments, corrections on the May 29th meeting? Seeing none, entertain a motion. Let's have Commissioner Miller, was that a, yeah.
Yeah.
Motion by Miller, seconded by Sidley.
Mr. Chairman.
Aye.
Mr. Vice Chairman.
Aye.
Commissioner Aaroner, Commissioner Byer,
Aye.
Senator Cabaldon,
Aye.
Assembly Member Chen, Commissioner Garcetti,
Aye.
Commissioner Hernandez,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Senator Nilo,
Aye.
Assembly Member Ortega, Commissioner Sidley.
Aye.
Thank you. With that, Mr. Chairman, we have adopted all of the minutes. And with the commission's permission, we can move on to item number 3 on the agenda, which is the presentation of some research conducted on behalf of the commission by a graduate student at Berkeley. We often work with students, as commissioners know. So let me turn it over to Tamar, who sort of worked more closely with Ms. Desriani on this. Tamar, if you can introduce that presentation, please.
Thank you so much. So commissioners, as you know, we've worked with students in the past over, various sorts of projects, and Fenny Desriani is the latest student to work with us. She is currently a graduate student at UC Berkeley, and she's pursuing her master's degree in public affairs. She's on track actually to graduate next month. So the research that she conducted on our behalf was her capstone project and completion, a requirement for completion of her degree. She did that us an investigation into California's digital divide and some of the gaps that remain. Her work was actually recognized by the Goldman School as the best capstone project this year. And so she's here today to present her findings and conclusions from that research. Before she begins, I just want to give her my appreciation. She's been thoughtful and really dedicated in the work that she's done for us, and it's been a pleasure to work with her. So Fenny, with that, let me turn it over to you, and we're looking forward to hearing your findings.
Okay, thank you very much, Tamar. Good morning, commissioners. I'm Fenny, and I'm happy to share my research finding here on California's digital divide. So please allow me to share my screen. Okay. All right. Can you see my screen? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's first start with the heart of the problems and the digital divide in California. On the left side of the slide, we can see that a data showing that California has nearly universal broadband coverage. However, the reality says otherwise. On the right side of the slide, we can see the map of the percentage of unserved household by county in California, with the darker shades counties meaning they have higher percentage of unserved household. So we can see that in inland counties and the far northerns of California, they have higher percentage compared to like urban areas and also coastal areas of the state. These major gaps, meaning that we have to have better targeting and more equitable investment for the state. Despite we know that nowadays in California, we already invest and also committed $1 billion on digital or broadband infrastructures, almost like $4.5 billion committed and spent for a couple of years, but still the gap remains. So my research is is centered around 4 big questions. The first one is trying to understand the underlying factors of this digital divide. The second is to know the program and policies nowadays in state of California. And the third is about to learn from other cities, states, and counties that made progress, and also about what kind of policy alternative can effectively bridge this digital divide. So the methodology that I use, I interviewed different stakeholders from state agencies and also ISP, internet service providers, broadband consortia, and others. And I do have some limitations in terms of like time constraint, access to research or like stakeholders, and no direct input from rural or tribal end users at this point. But from this methodology and limitations, I discovered the root causes behind digital divide in California. I group it into 3 big categories. The first one is about the market limitations. The second is about the grant application challenges. And the third is about gaps in data and the local capacity. I will explain one by one the root causes. And first, we're gonna start with the market problem itself. So how do we treat internet infrastructures? Here, we try to reach the public goals, meaning we want a universal and equitable broadband access. However, the one who provide internet services to the communities are internet service providers which they are profit driven. And we know in rural areas in California, these areas are low density, meaning fewer paying users per mile of infrastructure. And the second is that a high capital cost to deploy this kind of infrastructure because of like the geography or topography challenges. And the third is also no short-term ROI. So ISPs see this kind of infrastructure as a bad investment for them. As a result, the broadband doesn't reach the people who need it the most. So that's the market problem that we have. And also on the right side, we see that nowadays in California, We have the terminology of incumbent here, where only one or the most like two internet service providers in certain area will kind of prevent other ISP to also provide the service in those kind of areas, meaning that incumbent then set higher price and they don't have like no pressures to improve their services. So this is the problem that we have nowadays. And next, let's move to the grant process. We have several grant programs here in the state of California, but different programs have a different definitions of like unserved population, different eligibility standards. Some of them require speed, some of them latency, some of them like prefer a specific kind of technology. So different definitions create confusion to the communities, like to the ISP themselves. They don't really know what kind of like grant they should be applied for. So this is the issue that we have. And next, still about the grant application. It is a complex and slow process. And in the broadband grant, it will took like 1 or even 2 years of the process of the applications until like one notification, and at the end is a reimbursement. And one of the key things the ISP, like the small ISP, said in my interview, that they require to submit the letter of credit, but however it's kind of hard for them to fulfill, so it leads them, it create exclusion for them in this space. And then we also have the issue in the map itself. So different programs, they rely on their own map. So because they have different eligibility criteria, but the map itself direct the fund. So the map itself is also gonna cut where the fund will be allocated. And for one of the example is in the Oakland. Previously, Oakland considered as a fully served areas, so they cannot apply for the grant. And even though they have like the conditions in reality, they don't have like high, some part of the Oakland, they don't have like high speed internet access. So, and even the middle mile funding was cut for them. So they did an effort like back to Sacramento. After 2 or more years, finally their area can be classified as a unserved location. And then now, fortunately, they get the grant, $15 million, but it took like 2 more years in order to be put into the map. So this also the problem about the map. And lastly, about the root cause, is also about the capacity in the local. So like the permitting took months. And also why this has happened, because of like the permitting and also under the delay on the permitting process in the local and understaffed. So usually some of them use like IT support staff in order to do like permitting process for the broadband, and it took months for them to process it. And also we have nowadays the workforce and supply chain issues in terms of like labor shortage, and need months to train a new workers if we train new technology of the broadband itself. So those are the root causes. Now let's move to the success stories. How other jurisdictions try to make progress on the digital divide. So I did a study to the 3 jurisdictions. The first one is Ileton, California. This is a very recently a fact. So they can boost their performance in internet speed due to the first one, because they use a new kind of technology, the fixed wireless called Tarana, a new set of technology that fit with their kind of terrain. So, and also they have the city provided public land for the tower to be installed, to install the technology. And also they have support from the consortium, a broadband consortium. So this is the first case study. The second one is in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Here, they provide a municipal fiber to the home. So basically, the municipality, they own and operates the networks and serve it to the society. So they release bond and they get the funding, and then they create this municipal fiber to the home. So it's like kind of like public services, so they can reach high performance for the city. And the third one is in Aswin, Estonia. They use open access middle mile fiber, meaning that they create the services or broadband infrastructure to the communities, and then the ISP themselves can use it together. So like this boosts competitiveness in the area of the Aswin. So that's the key main point for them. So these are the things that we can learn for the California. And the next question is that how could California do differently with the set of root causes and with what we have learned from the other jurisdictions? So here I bring three set of solutions or like kind of alternatives. The first one is about the current trajectory. So if we just want to keep this current situations continuous. And the second is about we do the implementations reform. So more about streamlines grants, more about accelerate permitting, and empower the local actors. So the feasibility could be higher, but the effectiveness, if we want to like kind of break the market limitation, is kind of difficult in this alternative two. And the last alternative, which is the alternative that I also recommend, is about outcome-driven access model, which is meaning that alongside the streamlines grants, accelerate permitting, and empower local actors, we also like state of California enhance like the more flexible use of technology. So we don't want to specifically prefer to specific kind of technology, but we make it outcome driven. So what kind of technology that could be served, what specific terrain challenges in the specific areas are welcome. So that's the idea. And also this is like open access. So meaning that no only one or two incumbents. It's the kind of like open for many internet service providers. So this is the detail of the alternative three. So the alternative three is basically technology neutral. And we also encourage the streamlined process in this alternative and require open access for the technology that are served to the communities, and the fund itself tie to the result or like to the outcome that the technology is gonna create. So this is the alternative three, and let's discuss more, and that's all. And I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, I have a question. Is this material copyrighted?
No, we are free, Mr. Chairman. Fenny, I'll take that one.
Okay.
We are free, Mr. Chairman, to use the material in whatever way we wish, and so it might serve as useful background for a future scoping memo, an issue brief, or whatever else we wish to do. So,
well, I was looking at that. It looks to me as though the logo, the Little Hoover Commission logo, would fit right over that.
Well, I told Fenny to leave up the Berkeley logo for a few seconds because I know we have several bears on the commission. So,
right.
Well, Fenny, before I turn it over to the commissioners, who already have people have their hands up, but it was very, very impressive work, and I think one of the benefits and what I'm so pleased about with Ethan and staff is coordinating with people like yourself. Who are doing this work that is highly detailed and very, very responsive to issues that are of great concern to all of us. And just as a group, as a Little Hoover Commission, we benefit greatly from the contributions that you have made to the work of the people in the state of California. And I'm not going to endorse a particular product, but I had seen some time ago a demonstration of the Tirana system. And the Tirana system, that kind of application, I think, holds great promise because you don't have to trench. You're not laying cable. You're not have to put fiber. And part of why places don't have broadband is the point that you identified, is that cost per mile is really significant. And particularly when you have small communities, they're not going to make that investment because they're not going to get the kind of return that the market requires. So very impressive. Thank you. So let me turn to Commissioner Byer.
Sure. Well, first, brilliant work. I've been around more than a few days in the public policy arena. This is in the top 5 in my experience of presentations I've heard. I think the lesson in part from the way you presented this actually goes back to an observation by Senator Cabaldon about the book Recode America, and previous work we've previewed on the abundance agenda. If you take a step back, broadband access is important for individual empowerment, that is empowering citizens to get access to goods and services, governmental and non-governmental. It is a big deal. And so denial of access is not just a social equity, but an economic development question. So you laid that out very effectively. You outlined how the system works. It's hugely complicated. The BEAD program, for example, is $42 billion. It passed in 2021. Less than $1 billion has been spent to date. So it's really hard to do. And it's been, in my view, poorly implemented. And so I think what you've done by focusing on your recommendation number 3, make it about outcomes, don't make it about map making and process. And by being technology neutral, you're advancing the conversation in an important way for policymakers, because you're saying, let's not get hung up on the position of various stakeholders, whether they're internet service providers, regulators, financiers, et cetera. Let's look at it from the perspective of the people who need access to broadband. So the structure that you put together was really good, thoughtful, and thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Garcetti.
Let me tell you that if you took everyone on this commission that have heard presentations in their lives, they would come to the same conclusion that I think most of us who are smiling have, and that was one of the best presentations I personally have ever heard, and your work is truly outstanding. So congratulations and thank you. My question is not directly on target. You're working on your master's. Do you hope to get a PhD?
All right. Thank you. First of all, thank you very much, Chairman, and thank you very much, Commissioner David Byer. And thank you also, the Commissioner Gill. So to be honest, I'm now in the intersections of thinking what could be done next. So I'm thinking to do a PhD, but probably after 2 or 3 years. I want to focus on more doing the research and policy advocacy jobs, preferably if I could do it in California or else in other part of the world, and then probably after 3 or 4 years pursuing the PhD.
Okay, so a question for you. Are you an Indonesian resident? Do you hold with that? Okay. So what we are facing in terms of graduate students being able to stay in our institutions, does that directly affect you right now?
Affected what, sorry?
Yes. The President of the United States has indicated that there'll be certain schools, maybe all schools eventually, who will not be permitted to bring in foreign students. Are you one of those students in that situation? If they were to say, if you're studying at Berkeley, you cannot have any foreign-born students in your graduate programs or admission, even undergraduate.
Oh, yeah, that kind of like that in Indonesia also, the perception of like graduating from like foreign university and obviously from like Berkeley, it has that kind of like perceptions.
Yeah. Well, certainly we would love your permission to use your presentation today to show elected officials this is what we're talking about when we have these incredibly bright students here in our country and contributing to our country. So thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Thank you. I think it's pretty clear that commissioners are grateful for your work, appreciative for what you've done, and very impressed with your accomplishments. Thank you, Fenny.
Thank you very much, Fenny.
Very much. My pleasure.
So with that, Mr. Chairman, with your permission, we will move on to item number 5, which is the administrative update. 2 sub-items here. The first is our search for a communications and outreach analyst to replace Allie Powell, who left some time ago. We have conducted interviews with finalists and are very close to making an offer. Tamara and I hope to make an offer either later this week or early next week. The second item is, I believe, news to the commission, which is that we will be searching for a research analyst because, unfortunately, Ashley Hurley is leaving the commission early next month to attend public policy school at Berkeley. This is I don't think she's on camera, but I'm going to embarrass her a little bit. This is a huge loss for the staff. I can assure you, commissioners, you do not know what a incredible role Ashley has played in doing everything, research, writing, running the meetings, all sorts of things. This is a massive loss, but we are going to carry on, and so we will be hiring to replace Ashley. Ashley, I don't know if I've embarrassed you enough. You're not on camera, but Tamara, I'm sure you agree with me that this is a major loss for the staff.
Ashley's job has been one of wearing multiple hats, and I have to say she's worn each one of them so beautifully, and has just been a pleasure to work with these last 5 years. She came to us just as the pandemic started, and we all had to shift working remotely. That did not slow her down one bit, and she's just continued to grow and progress. So it's a bittersweet departure. I'm very excited for her career growth that this degree and education will bring her, but of course, sad to see her leave the commission.
I think Commissioner Sidley has something.
I just want to, Ashley, just add my praise that it's been a pleasure working with you, and go Bears.
So how long before you leave, Ashley?
About a month.
Oh.
There you go. There you go.
Oh,
Sorry
now we're going to have to fire her since she made a mistake on the audio.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I'll leave in about a month and a week. So coming up.
Well, congratulations on your move, but just let me echo what others have said. I think that the commission made an important transition, and you were key in the success of that transition in our exploring other avenues of communication and fully embracing social media, digital outreach, and the rest of it. I certainly, at 77 years of age, I can barely handle my mail that comes from the Postal Service. But you are an important part of putting together everything that has helped to promote the work that the commission does. And I think when I was mentioning to Ethan earlier, when you look at the public comment and the breadth of people who are coming with public comments, we didn't used to get that kind of experience. That was always very narrow and very focused. But what we saw just today with public comment was a whole bunch of different people with different issues. And you have helped make the Little Hoover Commission increase its importance and its significance to the people in California. Thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you all. And I'm very grateful for my experience at the commission. It's shaped how I view how we address problems in the state. So I know it will serve me well at Berkeley.
Well, good luck to you.
So we have actually posted that position, or it's being posted now, and we will work as quickly as we can to fill Ashley's position. With that, Mr. Chairman, we'll move on to the final item with your permission, which is item number 6, which is a legislative update. 2 things I want to mention here. Starting on page 33 of the packet is a list of the bills that we are supporting. There are 13 bills. My thanks to Tamar for putting that together and tracking that in the absence of our communications analyst who would normally do that. And then I also wanted to update the commission briefly on the governor's reorganization plan. The deadline for the legislature to reject that plan, if it wished to do so, is this Friday, the 4th. Otherwise, the plan will take effect. Neither house has scheduled a hearing this week on the plan. Senator Nilo, who I see just raised his hand, did introduce a resolution SR 52 to disapprove the plan. And perhaps he wants to talk about that in a moment, but there is neither house is scheduled a hearing this week. The Assembly said that their informational hearing in May was the only hearing that they intend to hold. The Senate has yet to refer the plan to a policy committee. Senator Cabalden and Senator Nilo did preside over a budget subcommittee hearing some time ago, which was quite thorough, and the Assembly subsequently had a budget subcommittee hearing. But in terms of policy committees, nothing is scheduled to the best of my knowledge for this week. So the plan, it is likely, I think, will take effect. They're perhaps more relevant to the Commission's work is that we have not really had much follow-up from the legislature with regard to the companion legislation that we recommended in our report. However, I attribute that largely to the focus on the budget, on the situation in Los Angeles, a variety of other things that have taken the legislature's attention. And so it is our intent to follow up with legislative offices with regard to companion legislation once the plan takes effect, if that is the ultimate decision. And so we'll be continuing to work on trying to implement that companion legislation. With that, Mr. Chairman, turn it back over to you.
Senator Nilo.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I did introduce a resolution to consider that reorganization and oppose it. The resolution was tabled successfully by the majority party. So I think that that's ample evidence that it is not going to be taken up, and by inaction will go into effect.
Commissioner Garcetti. You're muted, Gil. Sorry. You're still muted. Gil, you got
I've got it finally now.
There you go.
Boy, should we take any pride in the governor's action yesterday regarding CEQA? That's to you, President.
Turn it over to the commission.
Do we know yet the specifics of the deal? Because it would help to know that, to know whether or not we get to take any, any kudos for it.
Are you talking about the press conference he had for the budget that he signed, and specifically the role of that AB 131?
Yes.
I would suggest there is a huge procedural problem with that.
Oh.
Yes. The governor stated just a few weeks ago that unless the legislature approved that bill, that he would say that he would see that the budget would not take effect. And so there was language in the budget that said that the passage of the budget, or the if AB 131 was not passed, that then the budget as a whole would be null and void. That was then that's why I was the only no vote on that, not because of the policy. I probably would have supported that bill in a policy committee, but we had the executive branch of government dictating on a take it or leave it basis to the legislature that it passed policy in the budget that has nothing whatsoever to do with the budget, or the budget would be null and void. That is a violation of our structure of government, the co-equal branches of the legislative and the executive. The legislative branch acquiesced to that and allowed the executive branch to dictate to it what it does. It basically takes the legislative process and flips it backwards. I was adamantly opposed to that. So if you want to complement the policy, that's fine. As I said, if it were strictly a policy bill, I probably would have supported it. But the procedural issue and the constitutional issue was frankly offensive.
Thank you for sharing that.
And at that, looks to me like it's a good time to adjourn.
On that positive note,
I want to thank you all for your participation. I want to thank staff for putting together the work, as always, stellar. Wish you all a happy, what, 4th, right? We got 4th of July coming up. Celebrate, stay away from fireworks, support drone demonstrations. They're cleaner, they're nicer.
And don't drink a 5th on the 4th.
Thank you, Senator. All right, you guys. See you soon. Adios.
Bye.